we're live. People know what is happening. So if you are listening now, hey guys, welcome to the Sandro community podcast. I am just getting the windows loaded up here to start the actual podcast. So so I just need to do that, and then we can get going with some of the news stories.
You're live.
Yeah, I'm live. So, hello, Piggis.
Hi there.
And you'll probably have to say that again just for the recording. Just because, yeah, why not? Unless you don't want to.
Hello there.
We aren't recording yet, Piggis. Anyway. Hello, Womp Womp. So let's just load up. So there's two windows here. I need to load up. So let me load up the second one. And then we can actually start to discuss stuff. Why won't it just let me? It won't let me for some reason use this Firefox window. What's happening? I'm not exactly sure what is going on here, guys. I'll just have to quit this browser quickly and then just yeah, then maybe I'll load. Oh, what? Why is it now showing the calendar? That is weird. So yeah, so let me wait a sec here. I just need to reopen the Firefox profile. Sorry about this one. And yeah, we'll get started in a minute once I have hit this launching a different profile button. And yeah, let's do that. Yep. So here it should be. Nope, wrong Firefox window. Here. Yes, it's here. Okay, so now let's actually get started, guys, with today's stream. So we'll hit the record button in a minute, and hopefully this is all working well. Let me see. I need to tile both of these windows like that. So there we are. So let me just fix the windows here, and there we are. So let's actually get started with the stream and actually start recording this. So let me hit record in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome to the Sandro Linux community podcast. It is the 25th of January 2020. What am I saying? It's the 25th. It's the 25th of January 2024. And yeah, it's a Friday as always, guys. So, of course, we are discussing the tech news. So I hope my levels are okay here. 25th. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. If you can't, then please comment in the chat. I'd rather fix audio level issues earlier in the stream than later on, of course. You know, it's just much easier there. Hey, Piggis, hello?
Hello there.
Yes, so we've got Piggis here today in the Discord to discuss some of these news stories. So, let's get started with the story that was in the title, the one that you clicked on. So, this is an interesting one. Not exactly the most usable version of Windows by any means, but it's pretty interesting. So, the Windows 11, you can now get it as a smaller package here with a 100 megabyte version of Windows 11 made by Tiny11 here. So basically they have reduced Windows 11 down to basic components. So there's no more GUI. It's just a basic command line or basic command line utilities. Now, of course, that does mean that it's not exactly the most usable thing out there. Of course, if you're actually looking to get something done on your Windows computer, this most likely isn't it. However, this most likely isn't, the best thing for your use case. However, if you just want to play about a bit with a basic Windows install, or if you want to spin up Windows on a more basic system with less system resources, then this could be a really good option. Of course, this has no official support from Windows, from Microsoft themselves, and they haven't actually provided any sort of download for this this command line version of Windows yet. However, it does seem pretty promising, and overall, it might just be a little fun thing that you can, play around with if you enjoy playing around with Windows installs. And of course, if you want to go back to the MS-DOS days of command line before Windows 95 kind of brought in the GUI, maybe this is what you were hoping for. However, of course, this doesn't have full DOS, capabilities. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus, on this project? I suppose.
Not much. Like, finally, we have a Windows version that isn't bloated.
I mean, you are making some serious trade-offs here, to be honest. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what utilities you actually get here, but they will be pretty basic. So most operations you do on Windows won't be so easy via this min-win version of Windows 11. However, at only 100 megabytes, it's a pretty small install compared to the Windows 11 default ISO for installing it, which I think, isn't it around, last time I checked it was around like 15 gigabytes. Is that realistic? Do you know, Pigus?
Something like that.
Yeah, I remember the
Mm.
last Windows install I actually the last ISO I tried to download of Windows was Windows 10. However, I haven't really had that many encounters with Windows 11 when it comes to, trying to actually download an ISO file of it. Anyway, moving back to the actual point here. So this is an interesting project. However, we will just have to wait and see when this is actually released to the public as some sort of image, or whether they'll just leave it here and just show it as some sort of cool project, which they just did, and you won't be able to. So yeah, who knows what will happen here? But we'll just have to see what the Tiny11 developers do. Any other thoughts, Pigus, before we move on to the AI news here?
You know, even though it's not maybe that useful, what they have done here, it just shows how much you can actually strip down Windows.
Yeah, it shows that there isn't reliance on the certain GUI stuff, and you can actually strip down Windows 11 to this point where you just have a command line. However, this isn't the most ideal solution. I suspect if you just want a pure command line, you probably want to go to like a different operating system, maybe BSD, maybe Linux. And yeah, really, you won't have the best time on Windows if you're a big fan of only having the command line, or if you want a really lightweight system. Of course, there's other OSs for that. Windows usually comes with a lot of pre-installed utilities, And yeah, really, that isn't going to change anytime soon. Microsoft, of course, aren't going to really give any sort of official support for this, I don't feel, in the near
Uh,
future. However, of course, this is just an interesting passion project by these developers. And yeah, a pretty cool one to play around with, I feel.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, so Minwin sounds a bit like Minix, but it's not related. But maybe they're going for something like that. I don't know. With naming, I mean.
It's a minimal Windows.
Yeah, I suppose. What did Minix stand for? Was it something Unix? Like, was it just like
Uh, no idea.
let me look that up right now. I think yeah, it comes from Mini Unix. That's what Minix stands for. Okay. Anyway, moving on to the AI news here, guys. A little bit of an interesting AI story here, especially if you're a developer, because yeah, this is an interesting project. So Google's AI powered IDE IDX is trying to show how your app runs on Android and iOS. So this is of course currently in development. This is very the early stages of this IDE. However, there's no harm, of course, trying it if you're a developer. And yeah, it's an interesting idea using AI to actually allow you to see how your app runs on different platforms and make maybe the development process slightly easier. And yeah, overall, it's a pretty interesting project by Google. Of course, people are trying to integrate everything with AI these days. So we'll just have to see where this goes. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus, on this interesting
Oh,
project? Yeah.
I just looked through a bit, and it seems like it's built on top of Visual Studio Code, the
Oh,
open source version.
that's cool. Yeah, of course they're gonna go with a base version. They're gonna go with some sort of base ID to start with. It would probably be quite inefficient for them to just make an entire new IDE when there's such a popular offering when it comes to Visual Studio Code. And the fact that Microsoft actually releases most of the code for Visual Studio out open source does mean that it's pretty easy for Google to make some adaptations and make this new IDE using this AI stuff. But yeah, of course, there's GitHub Copilot if you're using VS Code, but Google's doing something different here, I suppose. And that's interesting. And overall, Google didn't previously have an IDE, I don't think. So maybe they're trying to enter into that sphere as well. Maybe provide more developer tools. Of course, there's always been the Android Studio and stuff like that. If you're into Android development, however, this is maybe a bit of a step beyond that. Any more thoughts, Pigus, before we move on to the iPhone news here?
No.
Okay, so moving on to a mobile story here. So Shazam will now allow you to identify music while you are wearing headphones. So of course, Shazam is a very popular app if you like to see what music is being played, and yeah, it's really popular, and it has been for the last decade. However, uh, now apparently you'll be able to use this new feature of being able to identify songs in apps while you're wearing your headphones. So I swear this was some sort of feature previously, because I have detected stuff while I've had my headphones on. However, however, apparently according to this, it wasn't actually a thing previously. So maybe I'm misremembering here. Maybe I was just using my phone speaker. But yeah, this is a cool feature nonetheless. Of course, if you use your headphones a lot, it is good to be able to identify what songs are playing, especially if they're in some sort of YouTube video or maybe just some other form of media where it is not immediately labeled. This could be a really useful thing for use cases such as that. And yeah, overall it's a small feature, however a big quality of life improvement. Any thoughts, Piggus?
Uh, it's
Hello, Piggus? You still there?
hello.
Oh yeah, it's what?
Mm. No, it's nothing.
Oh, it's nothing. Okay. So let's continue on to the iPhone news. So the first story I wanted to cover here is it's an interesting one here. So this of course involves the EU Apple stuff. So this has been going on for quite a while now. The EU, with their Digital Markets Act, actually, trying to enforce this in the real world is a bit different than, just the regulation itself. Of course, there has to be enforcement of that regulation, and the Coalition for App Fairness is saying that Apple's way of implementing third-party app stores is not actually compliant with the law, and it is a shameless insult. So that's a quote from this coalition, and quote must not stand, as it says in the headline here. So apparently, they're basically attacking Apple for introducing this €1 million letter of credit fee to launch your own app store. Of course, this could be viewed as quite anti-competitive because, of course, if you allow your own app store, of course, Apple controlling the platform has their own app store with the Apple App Store, and they're actually trying to kind of squash competition here by having a fee to be able to launch an app store. So, of course, an €1 million fee could put off many developers. That's just, a matter of fact, really. But, of course, Apple could argue this is just them protecting their intellectual property. It's just them protecting their platform from malicious actors, from people with bad intent. However, I do think the €1 million price is quite high, and really, we'll have to see whether the EU Commission actually will be okay with this, and whether the EU actually decides that Apple is not complying with the regulation here, and maybe there could be some fines and some scrutiny coming soon. Do you have any thoughts, Piggus, on this? Yeah.
Just annoying.
It is annoying. I mean, Apple have just been trying to fight this for such a long time. They've been trying every trick in the book just to not, not actually open up their platform. Of course, it would be great if people on iPhone could actually, use apps from third-party app stores, if there could be more competition on the iPhone marketplace. However, of course, Apple wants to prevent that because, of course, they do get that great cut from App Store purchases. So they have financial incentive to do so, obviously. But they would argue, of course, taking a balanced take here, that yeah, they're trying to protect you from malicious applications. They're trying to protect you from privacy invasive apps. Now, of course, I think it should probably be the user's choice whether they decide to download an app. It should really be, your choice, what you do with your phone. However, that is not the view held by Apple, and of course they will, try and win legal battles to ensure they can continue keeping up their walled garden ecosystem. However, of course, the EU might not let this stand. But of course, we'll just have to wait and see what they do. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus, here?
Uh,
Okay, I think that's good. So we'll move on to another story related to opening up the platform a bit here. This is some actual openness here from Apple. A small little thing, maybe, which might help some people who enjoy some of these cloud gaming services, but aren't fully into the kind of the Apple streaming services, because now you can actually get third-party cloud gaming apps on iPhone. So this will apply worldwide, and yeah, you can now get some of these cloud gaming services in the App Store. You can actually download the app, and they will no longer be restricted to their web apps. Now, of course, you could look into the motives here for Apple doing this, increasing regulatory scrutiny all over the world when it comes to cracking down on big tech platforms, trying to prevent their users from doing certain things. And of course, there's a lot of scrutiny on Apple, so this could be a way of them signaling that they're opening up their platform a bit. So yeah, that could be a reason they're doing this. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus? I mean, the cloud gaming market in general isn't that big. It's not really a sector that's took off like some people may have expected. And some of these companies, such as Apple, may now actually be willing to allow their competitors onto the platform a bit more. So, do you have any thoughts on that overall, Pigus?
uh,
No thoughts then. Okay, so let's continue on to the Apple Podcasts story here. So, a little bit of an interesting feature for those updating their iPhones. So, people who are actually using, using an iPhone here. Apple Podcasts will now actually offer transcripts for all shows in iOS 17.4. So, it's a pretty cool feature to add to Apple Podcasts. So this uses machine learning models and artificial intelligence to actually generate these transcripts. Overall, this is a pretty cool feature in my opinion. Overall, and yeah, I think this could be pretty interesting to see what it generates. Of course, there could be mistakes along the way. We could see some interesting things popping up. There could be the potential for offense if this AI accidentally generates words that it, actually shouldn't. Maybe if it accidentally mistranscribes things, that could end pretty badly. However, of course, as AIs get better and better, stuff like that is less likely to happen. However, there is always that chance. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus, about Apple integrating AI into their podcast app here?
no, I think it's cool. Uh,
Yep, me
I
too.
mean, platforms like YouTube have had auto subtitling for years now.
Yep, but Apple are now adding this into the podcast app, which is a nice addition for those Apple users out there.
And I don't know if there's have been any problems with the YouTube transcriptions really. Like it isn't always correct.
Yeah, I do notice
But
it when you look at subtitles. sometimes the auto-generated ones are a bit dodgy. I've had to edit some of my, subtitles before because um, the auto-generated ones had some, funny stuff going on, and yeah, I'm not in the regular habit of doing that. I really should be. However, for long-form podcasts like these, it's a bit of a harder one to do, I think. Anyway, do you have any thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
Pigus? Any more?
It was that.
Mm-hmm. Cool then. Let's continue on here. So we really should have put this. I really should have put this in the actual previous section here because it was kind of linking into the previous stories when it comes to iOS actually having to open up a small bit, Apple having to open up due to scrutiny here, and there's another thing that has happened because of this regulatory scrutiny here. So the EU's Digital Markets Act has had another effect on Apple here. So iOS will now get proper Chrome and Firefox, but only for people, of course, in the EU. So of course, Mozilla will have to actually develop Gecko for iOS, so will Chrome with Chromium. However, this is a pretty cool thing. Maybe the companies have been preparing a small bit for this opening up, because, yeah, this was in the pipeline for a bit, given what the Digital Markets Act actually outlined. And yeah, this is a pretty good thing for iOS users. So if you are on iOS, you can now enjoy different browser engines, just like other users who use Android and other phone operating systems. And yeah, this is pretty cool because Apple for a very long time have been quite closed off when it comes to the browser engines. Of course, with WebKit being the main one, then pushing WebKit. Uh, yeah, really, it's cool to be able to actually use different browser engines on iOS, and we'll just have to see what different companies and developers do with this. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus, on this quite big story for the iOS users out there?
Mm,
Okay, so no thoughts here. So moving on here to one gaming story. It's a bit of a funny gaming story here. It's a bit of a, this is a fun one if you like your Xbox or something. So you can now get an Xbox Series S toaster. So this is apparently a product you can actually buy in the US and in the UK. Excuse me. And yeah, this is a pretty interesting product for Microsoft to be launching. It's a bit of a meme product, quite funny though. Of course, there's this little image here of the Xbox logos imprinted on the bread, and the little achievement unlocked, toasted to perfection. So that's some fun, I guess. And of course, if you actually want a toaster that looks like an Xbox Series S, this is a way cheaper way of getting something that looks a bit like an Xbox Series S in your house.
mm,
It is only £30 here in the UK, or it's actually £29.99. However, it's also in the US for that slightly high retail price of nearly $40. However, of course, there are conversion rates when it comes to currency and stuff. But even factoring that in, it is still slightly expensive, slightly more expensive in the US. However, you may judge it to be worth it. Maybe you want this really cool looking toaster here. If you're into the Series S, or if you just want to have a laugh, I suppose this is a pretty cool, joke toaster, I guess.
You can never get enough of the Xbox logo.
Yes, yes. If you dream of the Xbox logo every night, then this is clearly the toast for you. So when you wake up, you can toast some bread, and then you see it again. Anyway, let's continue on here. So you could never separate yourself from Xbox. Anyway,
Oh,
um,
impossible.
yes. So you open up the fridge, and then you realize that that's an Xbox mini fridge, and then you you toast your bread in your Xbox toaster. So you then go to work, you then get home, and then you play on your Xbox, and then you realize that your entire life is now centered around the Xbox brand. Anyway, let's continue on here. Uh, so let's continue on to some actual gaming, not gaming news, broadband and cellular news. So of course I could have covered some releases. You can look at those on IGN if you want to. Feel free to after the show. However, yeah, let's actually get onto some broadband news here. So there's a few global stories, which may be of interest to some of our audience. So one interesting story is that the UAE has agreed to a bit of a partnership here with Malaysia to build more data centers. So Malaysia's Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry has announced that they are having a strategic partnership with the Ministry of Investment of the United Arab Emirates, and yeah, this is basically to develop some data centers in Malaysia. So it's interesting to see some investment coming in from the UAE here. And I'm not exactly sure what the exact goal of this is for the UAE. Maybe it's for closer integration with Malaysia. Maybe this will help with diplomacy. There's all sorts of stuff that this could potentially entail. However, this will be cool for Malaysia, I guess, and this may be a mutually beneficial agreement. Anyway, I don't really want to speculate too much on diplomatic matters here or geopolitics. However, this is an interesting story for Malaysia and the UAE. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really the most relevant story to most people. However, it's cool if you're interested in data center stuff, because there could be some new ones opening up in Malaysia. Now, moving on to another story from developing telecoms here. So the Zimbabwean. How would you say it, Pigus? Zimbabwean.
Zimbabwean? No.
Zimbabwean. Zimbabwean. There we are. Zimbabwean authority, Zimbabwean regulator, is apparently getting more tough on unauthorized use of Starlink. So their government has not actually authorized the use of Starlink within their country. So the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, which is an official regulator in the country of Zimbabwe, has warned that individuals and businesses distributing and advertising equipment to access Starlink internet services may be arrested. So apparently, 2 people may have already been arrested under this new, crackdown. And yeah, this is pretty heavy-handed stuff from the regulators in Zimbabwe. However, it is their rules when it comes to Starlink. Of course, they don't want people using Starlink. So, yeah, clearly, they haven't authorized it, so they don't want it to be used within their nation. So, yes, do you have any thoughts, Pigus? This is going to badly affect people in Zimbabwe, I feel. If they want some
Mm-hmm.
Starlink broadband, of course, not having it having it approved within Zimbabwe is going to be a major roadblock for some people who want to use this service. However, of course, it is it's the choice of the government of Zimbabwe what they do here. But this will be quite a big roadblock for those who do want to actually use this service.
Because
Now,
it's like the internet isn't the most reliable in Zimbabwe.
yeah, I don't know about the situation to do with ISPs in Zimbabwe. However, I don't imagine they have the fastest broadband. But yeah, I don't actually know much about the broadband in Zimbabwe, so I can't really comment there. Anyway, moving on here to the UK ISP news. So the UK operator O2 UK is now officially launching 48-month contract options with handsets. So previously, Ofcom did not allow for more than a 24-month contract. However, apparently this somehow circumvents the 24-month ban. Apparently, the contract for the handset should. So basically, they somehow circumvented this 24-month contract limit. And previously there was 36-month contracts. However, O2 are going in bold here a bit with the 48-month contract. Of course, that's tying you into debt for a longer period of time. There's going to be a lot of interest on those handsets. So, maybe this isn't the best option for some people. However, of course, if you need more flexibility, if you need more time to pay, then maybe you'll want to go for this slightly longer contract. Do you have any thoughts, Piggis? It's 4 years now that this contract is going at. Anyway, what's the maximum you can do in Sweden right now? What kind of contracts do you see?
I don't know about 4 years, but yeah, a few years.
Yeah, you see the norm here is either 12 or 24 if you're going into a contract. However, of course, they're breaking the norm a bit here. They're sort of circumventing Ofcom regulations a bit, but they can do that clearly. So we'll just have to see what comes of these longer contracts. Now, moving on to another story about the Virgin Media O2 group. Apparently, they have come out the top of the bottom. As in, they're the worst. Apparently, when it comes to customer complaints, they have generated the most customer complaints out of all the networks. So that is across landline, broadband, and pay TV. So overall, they have had a lot of complaints, and of course, Ofcom do monitor these things. They do these surveys to find out the customer complaints, and of course, this isn't the worst thing ever. Of course, if you actually want to use Virgin Media because of its high speeds and stuff like that, then you can. However, it has come top of the flops, as it says here on the register, for customer complaints. So, of course, this isn't the best if you care about customer service. However, maybe you just want to have some broadband and you want really fast broadband, and Virgin is your only option. Then maybe this might still be a good ISP for you. Now, do you have any thoughts, Piggis, on this UK ISP story?
Not really.
Is there anything like Ofcom in Sweden? Any telecoms regulator? Do you know the name of it? I don't know.
No.
Okay. Anyway, moving on here to another story. So, in the UK, there's quite a few of these little new alternative ISPs. Well, we've seen them consolidating recently, which is, which is something that's been happening more recently. And the Fern Trading group, apparently called Octopus Investments, is consolidating some of their alternative networks here. So Jurassic Fiber, Swish Fiber, Giganet, All Points Fiber are all being merged into Cuckoo for retail customers. They also apparently back a thing called Vorboss. However, apparently that's not being consolidated here, and that's actually an ISP for businesses. So that is, not really affecting the retail customers. However, that is something that, you can still use on the business side. However, if you are a customer of any of the networks I previously mentioned, you'll have to switch to Cuckoo. You'll be switched over to them by these networks. So they'll be migrating all those customers over. And yeah, that's an interesting one. A lot of consolidation in the space recently. But yeah, it's already companies owned by one company. So really, this isn't too much of a consolidation here. Really, it's just a unification of a brand, I guess. Anyway, do you have any thoughts, Pigus?
Yeah.
Has there been any major kind of consolidation in the ISP industry in Sweden recently?
I don't really keep track of that.
Fair. Fair. I mean, someone's covering some of these stories. I do think, these are very niche stories. These aren't stories that some people care about. However, it does give you a broad kind of base of information when it comes to the news, and it's sometimes interesting to hear about what's going on in the ISP space, given it affects, what kind of internet you can get and what kind of connection, you can have to the thing that you're currently connecting to if you're watching this video, unless you downloaded it. In which case, I suppose you don't have to be connected to the internet. So, yes. So, well done if you downloaded my video. I don't really care. Anyway, do you have any other thoughts, Pierce? I'm going to try not to ramble too much here. I'm going to try and get a bit more straight on with the stories for the next section. Now, moving on to the Linux news here. So, here's an interesting story. If you're into ethical hacking, or if you just own a Raspberry Pi and you want to try out a new distro. So, if you own a Pi 5, this is good news. If you're into ethical hacking, you can now get both Kali Linux and Power OS. So, Power OS 6.0 is bringing Linux 6.5 kernel support. So of course that's not as new as Linux, the latest version of the Linux kernel. So that's 7.01, I think. However, this is still a pretty recent version of the kernel that they're bringing to people. And, this is pretty cool if you want to use this on a Raspberry Pi, because now you actually have support. And of course, it might not have been the hardest thing for them to migrate their distro over, given the fact that it's actually based on Debian. However, there would have had to have been some effort to port this over, and they have now officially done it. So that's pretty cool for those Raspberry Pi 5 users out there. Do you have any thoughts, Pegasus? Have you heard of this distro before? Or
Definitely,
not?
yeah.
Yes, definitely. Totally not a slightly obscure distro here.
No.
I mean,
Well,
what other big distros are there for ethical hacking, except from clearly Parent OS or Kali Linux. Do you know any others?
There aren't really any.
Yeah, I mean, to be
Either
fair,
you
you
use
could.
those or just install the packages on regular Debian.
Yeah, you see, that's probably quite a good move, because then you don't have as much other stuff. Although, if you are using Kali Linux or Power OS, there is the fact that, it comes out of the box with all these different applications, all of these different stuff for pen testing and ethical hacking in general. And if you just want a nice install, a really easy way of just getting all the different applications you need in one convenient package, and if you enjoy using NeoFetch or ScreenFetch and seeing that Kali Linux, dragon, is that meant to be a dragon? Is that the idea of the Kali Linux symbol? You know?
Um,
Oh, it's a phoenix, isn't it? Anyway,
I think so.
yeah, I think it's a phoenix. I am misremembering here. However, we need to continue on here a bit. Just checking the chat. You can discuss in the chat any of the stories we're talking about today, guys. As you always can. And, yeah. Anyway, moving on here to a story to do with IRC clients. A topic that doesn't get much discussion these days. So Polari, Linux Linux IRC client is now getting a new look, a bit more of a modern look here. And of course, not everybody uses IRC these days. However, it is still popular with many people in the open source community and, geeks in general, I guess. It's a pretty cool thing, to be honest. I do quite like IRC. However, of course, it is quite an old standard, but it still works. It still has a lot of cool functionality, and it's still very extendable. Now, of course, there's been so much time that our IRC has been around. There's so much you can do with it. It's a pretty cool thing. However, yeah, there's now this new client look if you use this IRC client. So you can update your client and get this new look if you want to. And of course, if you don't
Wow.
like this new look, you can fork the project and maintain it yourself. Or just, try and keep the old UI somehow. I don't know what the old UI looked like, but, maybe there's some fans out there. Maybe we could see a fork if there's enough dislike of this new UI. How much of an upheaval is this? I'm not really sure. It looks like it might be quite a bit different from the previous look, but I'm not sure.
Mm,
Do you have any thoughts, Pigus?
no.
Okay. So here's another Windows story here. So we're moving into the Windows section here. Of course, the first story we covered today was a Windows 1. However, we've not covered one in a bit. So Google Chrome is now apparently available with a native version on ARM64 on Windows. So Edge 64, so Edge ARM64 version was already a thing, and now you can actually get, you can now get Chrome as an ARM64 version. So this will of course improve performance on Windows computers on ARM. So if you're running one of those computers that now run on ARM chips, such as some of the new Snapdragon chips, so previously, of course, with Windows 10, with the Windows Surface Pro X. That was an interesting one, although not really that successful, I guess. But you now can get, of course, Google Chrome. Currently, it's only in Canary version. However, this will, of course, probably be coming to a computer near you soon when it actually uh, when it actually comes out in the stable branch. However, it may not be coming to a computer near you, given the fact that barely anybody has these ARM devices when it comes to Windows.
Mhm.
Of course, there's probably more people running ARM with Mac. Of course, with the new M1 stuff and with Linux. So really, we'll have to see how the adoption goes. But of course, this is just a nice quality of life improvement for the Windows on ARM users out there. Now, some going to the sad news here. I've dedicated a section to it because it seems like something that's not really going away in the near future. We seem to be in a season of it, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, it's pretty sad to be honest. So that's layoffs. So here is the layoff section. Of course, your daily dose of depression here. Yeah. So here's a story coming from Sweden here. So the company Polestar is cutting 15% of its workforce globally. So apparently they're doing this because of quote unquote challenging market conditions. So they're a big EV maker, and of course there's been a kind of there's been some sales problems with EVs, certain EVs, such as the Lightning in the US, getting some decreased units shipped, with some more focus on hybrids. However, in some places, EVs are doing better, so it's really quite a bit of a mixed picture. However, is Polestar still related to Volvo at all? Do you know, Pigus?
Uh, don't ask me.
Yes, of course you better not. And just no. But they Polestar are quite a big EV maker. One of the ones that actually only makes EVs, which is a pretty cool thing. So when you see a Polestar that it is actually an EV. So that's pretty nice. However, yeah, of course, this could have a ripple effect. Maybe more uh, automakers could lay off some employees. We've already been seeing this a lot in the tech industry, and this phenomenon might sadly spread. Now, of course, we can only hope that there's less layoffs in the future. Nobody wants to lose their job, and of course, it's always bad news when you do. Now, moving on to even more bad news, and that's not the bad news. That's a character that I didn't mean to type randomly. Anyway, so the internet is apparently mad at Phil Spencer, according to Mashable. Let's remove that little bit of oh, the internet's mad. Well, maybe the internet is mad, but the real story here is that Microsoft Gaming is laying off 1,900 employees. So that's a pretty big layoff here. Quite a lot of people from Activision Blizzard are being laid off. And of course, this is kind of what is happening after Microsoft's big acquisition. They made many promises not to change too much. However, of course, they've just bought this company and now they're laying off a bunch of people. And the internet is mad, as many people might be at such a layoff. Nobody likes layoffs, except for maybe corporate executives who want to make more money. Anyway, but yeah, nobody really likes layoffs. However, investors do want layoffs, just for the welfare of the company. But of course, there's a two-sided thing there. However, of course, nobody likes layoffs, and this is pretty bad news for those 1,900 Xbox employees. Any thoughts, Pigus, on this? This could see some effects on the game division of Microsoft, to be honest, because will they be able to produce as many titles if they just have reduced staff? Maybe that might hurt the next COD game. Who knows?
Yeah.
The Call of Duty
I
series.
don't know. How many, do you know how many employees they have in total in the
It doesn't mention on this article, so I'd have to be guessing here. However, this is still a pretty big layoff by any means, but I'm not really sure how many they have overall. Anyway, let's move on to the next story, unless you want to say anything, Pigus. Do you have any clue on how many people they have employed there?
No.
Okay, so let's move on here. So, Beeper is apparently disabling new iMessage connections after Apple started banning Macs for using the service. So, Beeper Mini, of course, debuted in December, and there was all sorts of stuff with their reverse engineering. Apple was getting very angry. Yeah, they weren't happy about this, but they managed to take it down after a few days once it actually caught some attention. Yeah, they actually started fixing some of the workarounds, some of the reverse engineering that Beeper was doing. Of course, they claimed that it would be very hard for them to break it. However, Apple managed to somehow. Of course, the specifics aren't clear on that. However, of course, Apple aren't going to make it too clear how they fixed an issue just in case somebody tries to find a way around it. But now, of course, they've been banning Macs which are actually running this Beeper Mini software. So even using their last resort software for actually linking Android phones to iMessage, Apple actually just started banning Macs, which actually had this Beeper Mini software, so you can no longer access iMessage. So that's pretty bad if you want to use your Apple ID. Maybe you had iCloud, maybe you connect all your email through it. That is pretty bad news if you get your iCloud account suspended. However, they have actually reinstated some of these Apple IDs after Beeper Mini back down. That's another story I should have included in the notes. This is the first bit to the story. However, there has been some. Basically, if you disable Beeper Mini, you can get your account back. Now, do you have any thoughts, Pigus? This is pretty kind of cutthroat move from Apple here. Trying to get rid of Beeper Mini by any way, basically.
Mm.
Okay, so if you don't have any thoughts, Pigus, we should probably wrap up here, unless you have any other stories or anything you want to comment.
Yeah.
I'll just check the chat. If you want to say anything in the chat, now's your chance. Of course, we're here every week on a Friday, 7 p.m. UTC. Sometimes that moves about a bit, but it's 7 p.m. If you check, the Discord, or if you check YouTube at 7 p.m., hopefully you should see the stream up every week, guys. So that is a fun thing to look forward to every week. I enjoy it, and I hope the audience does too. So, of course, you can check us out on sandrolinux.com/discord. You can check out my website, sandrolinux.com. Of course, the Discord is linked at the /discord. So, that's cool. If you want my Odysee, it's /Odysee. YouTube, it's /YouTube, etc., etc. And yeah, thank you guys for watching once again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You can comment, of course, on this video afterward. And yeah, with your thoughts on these tech news stories. And thank you for co-hosting today, Pigus. So, do you want to say goodbye, Pigus? I'll say bye.